Hey, good afternoon, everybody. It is December 17, 2022. We're in the New Testament, and we're reading out the book of Revelation, and we're going to read chapter 7, verse 1 to chapter 8, verse 5. All right, so in John's book, this is his second vision that he's describing to us. Where are we at in that vision? Well, we started off kind of with a day in the life of heaven and all of us basking in God's greatness and power and glory and immensity and joy and peace and love and reflecting that back and praising God. And then we slowly shifted over to a specific day in the life of heaven, which is that last day, the day that we see the seal that we know is God's judgment. It's got 7 seals on it, and here comes Jesus, and we know this is the time he's going to start taking these seals off. Again, it's a vision, so we're not necessarily seeing actually what's happening. We're seeing a representation of it. We're seeing Jesus showing John spiritual, immense, infinite things that a human being couldn't understand in kind of symbolic language and symbolic imagery, and then he's trying to tell it to us. I said, you can spend a lot of time trying to analyze what every one of those symbols means. Again, I've said I've got whole books up here that talk about that, but we're going to just look at that big picture. And I said we're going to look at it kind of like that epic ending of your favorite fantasy novel, like Lord of the Rings. We're building up to this big battle between good and evil, that good is going to ultimately win. And we had Jesus start to open the scroll, and he's got 6 of the seals came off, and as each seal came off, more power from God was getting ready, more power, more power, more power. There's 1 seal left, and John is going to stop for a second, and he's going to look around heaven and see what's going on. And he sees 3 groups. He sees a group of Jews, 144,000. Now, again, that's a number, symbolic number. You can spend a lot of time analyzing that. Easiest way to look at it, that's 12 times 12 times 1,000. So why is that significant? Well, 12 is a number like completeness, like we saw 7. Only it's a little more than that. Perfection, God's perfection. We had 12 tribes, we had 12 apostles. Think of that. So 12 times 12 would be a really God number in the way of thinking here. 1,000. Why is 1,000 significant? Well, saying 1,000 in the first century AD would have been about the same as me saying 1,000,000 when I was a kid, about the same as saying 1,000,000,000 today. It's a lot. The biggest number you can think of. That's how many were there. So there's a multitude of these Jews. It's exactly God's perfect number of Jews, and there's lots of them. That's basically how you would think about it. And it breaks them down by tribes. And one of the things to see in there is each tribe has the same amount. So as we read through here and you see all the ways that the tribes are numbered, it's usually proportion, Judah being the strong most, Benjamin the least. But here at this final moment in heaven, they're equal. They're on an equal plane. All the tribes are represented. All the tribes are relatively equal. We get a list of them as God would order them, with Judah being the first. The Lamb of Judah, or the Lamb of Christ, comes from the Lion of Judah, that thing. Next group is the group of believers, Christians. There's mention in here of tribulation. There's a word that you can really go down a rabbit hole trying to figure out. We're just going to say that, hey, you know what? These are all the Christians from all time who before this point have died and gone to heaven. So we're all sitting there in our group. And our group doesn't really have a number associated with it, but it's 12 tribes, our group, and then the last group, angels. So those are the 3 divisions of heaven, of which we're the middle one. After he looks around heaven and sees sees our groups and sees all who are represented, we come back to the scroll and that last seal. And Jesus takes that seal, and there's that pause. We all know it's getting ready to happen. So it was all that build up as he's taking off the scrolls. He takes that last one off, and now there's that anticipatory pause that's going on. And we start to see a couple things. We see a guy come out with a censer, and on that censer is all of our prayers, all the prayers of all the believers, through all of our trials, through all of our tribulations that have gone up to God. that we had faith that were answered, that built us up in our relationship with God, and that's going to get thrown down to the earth and start the end. So let's go ahead and we're going to read Revelation chapter 7, verse 1 to 8:5. After this I saw 4 angels standing at the 4 corners of the earth, holding back the 4 winds so that no wind should blow on the earth or the sea or against any tree. And I saw another angel coming up from the east with the seal of the living God. He called out in a loud voice to the 4 angels to whom God had given the power to damage the earth and the sea. The angels said, "Do not harm the earth, the sea, or the trees until we mark the servants of our God with a seal on their foreheads." And I was told that the number of those who were marked with God's seal on their foreheads was 144,000. They were from the 12 tribes of Israel, 12,000 from each tribe: Judah, Reuben, Gad, Asher, Naphtali, Manasseh, Simeon, Levi, Issachar, Zebulun, Joseph, and Benjamin. After this I looked, and there was an enormous crowd. No one could count all the people. They were from every race, tribe, nation, and language, and they stood in front of the throne of the Lamb, dressed in white robes and holding palm branches in their hands. They called out in a loud voice, "Salvation comes from our God, who sits on the throne, and from the Lamb." All the angels stood around the throne, the elders and the 4 living creatures. Then they threw themselves face downward in front of the throne and worshipped God, saying, "Amen, praise, glory, wisdom, thanksgiving, honor, power, and might belong to our God forever and ever. Amen." One of the elders asked me, "Who are these people dressed in white robes, and where do they come from?" "I don't know, sir. You do," I answered. He said to me, "These are the people who have come safely through the terrible persecution. They have washed their robes and made them white with the blood of the Lamb. That is why they stand before God's throne and serve him day and night in his temple. He who sits on the throne will protect them with his presence. Never again will they hunger or thirst. Neither sun nor any scorching heat will burn them, because the Lamb who is in the center of the throne will be their shepherd, and he will guide them to springs of life-giving water. And God will wipe away every tear from their eyes." When the Lamb broke open the 7th seal, there was a silence in heaven for about half an hour. Then I saw the 7 angels who stand before God, and they were given 7 trumpets. Another angel who had a gold incense container came and stood at the altar. He was given a lot of incense to add to the prayers of all God's people, and to offer it on the gold altar that stands before the throne. The smoke of the burning incense went up with the prayers of God's people from the hands of the angel standing before God. Then the angel took the incense container, filled it with fire from the altar, and threw it on the earth. There were rumblings and peals of thunder, flashes of lightning, and an earthquake. May God bless the reading of his word. May God bless you. Bye.